Let's talk about Christ a little, shall we? Since it's Christmas. Supposed to be commemorating his birthday, yet he's not born December 25th. See? Do you remember, if you're a Christian or if you're not a Christian, do you remember the story where Jesus actually gets angry and he goes into the Jerusalem temple and destroys the merchants because they have turned the house of worship into a marketplace? And he says, "This shall be a place for worship, for prayers of all nations, and you have turned it into a marketplace, a den of robbers." And this is what Christmas is. And that's why I hate it. Jesus, if he was alive today, he would hate this holiday because that's what it's been turned into, marketplace. Santa, which stands for Satan, by the way, has been glorified more than Jesus. And the marketplace is the gifts you buy. You're looking at everything except for Christ. The establishment is teaching you to simply ignore everything else but what they tell you it is. You're wondering where I'm getting this from. Take out your Bible. In the Bible, I'm reading, particularly Gospel of John 2:14-16, records Jesus making a whip. A whip. Good job, Jesus. I love this. I love Jesus. Of courts and driving out merchants and overturning tables from the temple in Jerusalem, an event known as the cleansing of the temple, symbolizing his righteous anger against the commercialization of God's house and a prophetic declaration against corruption. What has Christmas been turned into? Commercial stuff. Commercial stuff. If Jesus was alive today, he would whip Christmas. Not to mention, you're not celebrating Christ's birthday. You're celebrating something that has been celebrated since the times of Egypt. December 25th, look it up. The establishment tells us what to do and how to feel. And the problem is people don't research. They just go singing pa la 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 la. That's the whole problem. Mindlessly consuming, mindlessly listening to whatever they tell you. It's through that mindlessness that imprisonment follows eventually on the planet. Yes, but let me calm down. Jerusalem temple is what Christmas is all about. Christ, the concept of Christ, has been kidnapped and misused. Yeah, you can still love Christ on Christmas, but you should know what it really is and what it really stands for. Because it's been the job of the elite, and algorithm might make this ineligible for FYP page because lately you cannot say anything that wakes up the masses, even if you're not using any bad words, that they won't take off air. I've had this happen to me many times on TikTok. The concern for humanity is, Christ lived and died. I will live and die, all of us. But the generations that come after us, if we don't pass on knowledge with the click of a button now in this day and age, that knowledge will be lost. Books are still very useful. They're not overrated. They're very useful because books are the only thing they won't be able to erase with the click of a button. So let me read a little bit to you the details of the event. It says, I love Jesus. Listen to this. Jesus fashioned a whip from cords and drove out sheep and cattle, scattered the coins of the money changers, and overturned their tables. The location is this occurred in the temple court, specifically the court of Gentiles, the only place non-Jews could worship. The reason is he condemned the economic exploitation and greed, telling sellers, "Stop turning my father's house into a marketplace. Stop turning Christ's birth, which is not December 25th, into a marketplace." Biblical context. The event is found in all four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, though John places it at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. Interpretation, this act demonstrated a zeal for God's house, fulfilling prophecies and signaling the end of the old temple system as Jesus declared himself the new temple. So it's sad. Jesus stood for so much good, and then they give us Christmas and make it into the same temple, Jerusalem temple of gifts, Santa reindeers. Even though it might be fun, Christ is not being celebrated. So that's it for now. I know I have the Grinch colors. Grinch is actually very smart. But anyways, if you're enjoying yourself, keep enjoying mindlessly and happily. And if you want to learn more about it, then do it. You know, do it while you can, while the information is still out there. Yes.